Welcome to this module. In this module, we are going to see yet another data engineering tool which is gaining a lot of popularity in the last few years, which is DPT. So, in this module, we are going to get introduced to DPT. So, DPT stands for Data Build Tool. We'll see in what context of data engineering life cycle does DPT play a role. Then we look at advantages of DPT and dig deeper into how it works, right? And finally, I will give you a demo of DBT. All right, so let's get started. All right, so let's get introduced to DPT, which is growing in popularity. So DPT stands for Data Build Tool. It's an open source tool founded in 2016 by Fishtown Analytics. So you might, if you're following these newses, I think in 2022, they actually raised quite a significant amount of money in their round, which backers like Snowflake, etc. So, which is a lot in the news, right? So, DPT has become sort of the de facto industry standard for data transformation. So, what DPT does is it takes care of the T in the ELT process, right? So, extract, load, and transform. So, we have talked about the workflows of ETL and ELT quite significantly. So, with the move towards cloud and with resources not necessarily storage resources not being a problem, so we see there is a move in the industry from TL to ELT, which is you extract data from all of your OLTP, your different sources, and put it as raw data, and then you do your transform processes for specific business use case. So DPT provides a very easy way to create, transform, and validate these data transformations within a data warehouse system, right? So it enables analytics engineers to write transformations of their business logic in a standardized, repeatable way. So DPT is also, the popularity comes from the need to version control your transformation processes, right? Because your data models keep changing as your business requirement may change. So it's important to keep track of these versions of your data model. So not only can it create the data model, DPT has a very greater, it plays a very advantage in orchestrating the workflow. So what that means is if you're creating a complex workflow, there are multiple steps to it. So the order in which the transformation has to happen is also taken care by DPT to convert your raw data into transformed data. So let's take a deeper look into what do we mean when we say DPT takes care of the T in your ELT process. So very quickly reviewing your ETL process. So what happens in an ETL process is you have your data sources, your transactional OLTP, right? So the transformation happens here. So extraction happens and transformation happens before the transformed data is loaded into your data warehouse, which is subsequently used for downstream applications such as your business intelligence, visualization, or your advanced analytics like your AI ML, right? But as I was mentioning, with the advent of storage being not very the blocker anymore, we see the transformation from ETL to ELT, right? So what that typically means is your data warehouse now houses not just the transformed data, as in the case of your ETL process, but it actually creates all the raw data. So, so the raw data load, this is your typically DL, which is your data lake, right? So that's what gets created. So it could be a separate step or it could be within your data warehouse, right? Typically how your infrastructure is set up, really, right? So and then transformation is done. So that's where your DPT comes in, because it takes care of keeping track of your versioning of your transformations from your raw data into transformed data, and trying out these transformations, testing it out before you can move to the production. And of course, your data warehouse in and of itself helps you in your downstream activity of business intelligence and advanced analytics. So before we get into the nitty-gritties of DPT, we look at the advantages. So it's designed to solve for the T or keep track of the T of the ELT process by working on raw data already present in your data warehouse. The raw data is what actually DPT does is it keeps track of the data model. So the raw data is transformed into usable tables using SQL queries. Then what's the point, right? So instead of saving SQL queries, so you save a .sql file which creates the data model. So we work with data models, which is essentially an SQL file with a select statement. So these models can depend on other models. You can run tests on them, right? Data integrity test, and it can be used to create and can be created as tables or views, these data models. So it's extremely simple because once you have your SQL understanding, you can pretty much create data models. So it's simple to understand and run compared to your other open source ETL or ELT orchestration software such as Airflow, right? Which you have to write your code in Python. Here, everything gets done in SQL. So it provides an easy version control way of writing transformation using just SQL for your flexible data warehouse, right? So this is a very important property. So once you have the knowledge of SQL, so a whole bunch of analytics engineer or anybody with SQL knowledge can actually understand how the data model works. So how does DPT works in the higher scheme of your DevSecOps or your Agile? So it helps in essentially development of data models by writing modular SQL models with select statement and your ref function. So it handles dependency management. So as I said, it's able to orchestrate beautifully the data model workflow. So any sort of dependencies is created, is orchestrated well by DPT. Right. So of course it looks at version control and eventually hence able to play a part in the CI/CD process. So safe deployment into your development environment, safe deployment of your data models, right? And your Git enabled version control enables collaboration and rolling back to the previous state. So if there is a data model transformation that doesn't work, you can actually roll back to the earlier version, right? So that none of your applications or your dashboard have any problems. Then finally, DPT also provides great documentation and testing capabilities. So you can test your data model prior to production and share dynamically generated documentation. So it has great documentation power. So it creates all your data dictionaries, right? Which can be shared with all the data stakeholders. So digging a little deeper into how DPT works, so it essentially, so you have your data warehouse and you're creating this modeling layer, right? From which gets your raw data, which are essentially your red squares, and you have your derived model, your transformed data essentially. So each model is defined by a star.sql. Star is a name, .sql file. It has a select statement, so no create or update statements, right? Like your data definition language or data manipulation language. A file that DPT will compile. So every model DPT will compile and run against in your data warehouse, right? So that is very important. So it sort of abstracts the transformation data modeling layer out. So it gives access to multiple people to create data models specific to their business requirements once they have a knowledge of SQL essentially, right? So democratizing your business intelligence in some way. So DPT again has two versions in which it can be done. You can install DPT locally, DPT core, and create your data models locally for your local data infrastructure like your local Postgres, etc. But there is also DPT cloud on the cloud, right? So there are two ways of operations of your DPT. Having gotten introduced to DPT and seeing its advantages and how it works, let's get ready for a DPT demo. In this demo, I have used one of the demos from the documentation of the Cloud DPT module, where it connects DPT with a BigQuery data warehouse and creates model on top of it. So the data set that is used for this project, so I've given you reference to that. It is a fictional e-commerce store called Jeffel Shop. So this project transforms raw data from an app database into customers order table raw tables, right? So we are trying to create a model, customer and orders model ready for analytics. So that is the whole idea. That's the model, data models that we will be creating. So this demo consists of 4 parts. So it is not a live recording. It's a series of screenshots of how this turns about. So you can actually refer to the reference link that is given here and also in the reference at the end of this module. Right, so there are 4 steps to implementing the demo. The first is you need to sign up and verify for an account in the Cloud DPT via cloud.getdpt.com/login. Go ahead and create an account and verify it. Then I will walk you through the steps of how do you set up your Cloud DPT project. That involves 4 steps. You need to name your project, choose your connection, configure an environment, and set up a cloud managed repository. Then we will go ahead and initialize your DPT project and finally start creating data models. So this is going to be a series of screenshots for which I will be giving some explanation, or if it is just a bunch of steps you need to follow, right, I will just walk through, you can just go through each of them. All right, so let's get started. So having done step 1, which is creating your account on Cloud DPT, right, to set up your Cloud DPT project, which is step 2, you need to do essentially 4 steps, which is name your project, choose a connection, configure your environment and repository. So by default, your first project is called analytics. So we are going to talk about the next 3 steps. So of that, the first step is you choose a connection. Right, so that's what we are going to talk about. So I've inserted this slide so that in your notes you can have it in a logical fashion. So the first step that we are going to see is how do you choose a connection. In this project, we are going to connect the Cloud DPT to GCP BigQuery, which means there are 2 steps involved in it, which is configure the settings in BigQuery, then configure settings in DPT. So we'll see the screens in Cloud DPT where you got started. Then we'll switch on to going to BigQuery to do some settings there, and then we'll come back to Cloud DPT to finish our configuration and adding our connection successfully. So having done the naming your project and getting into setting up your project setup, the second step is choosing a connection. So you can connect to any of the data warehouse solution. We are going to choose a BigQuery. So once you choose BigQuery, you can leave some of the default value. So you need to upload a service account JSON file, which is what we are going to go ahead and do next. So we are under choosing connection in the Cloud DPT project. So we are now going ahead to configure settings in BigQuery. So log on to your Google Cloud platform, right? So this is your GCP home screen. So yours might look a slightly different. So then go ahead and search for credentials and look for your API and services under GCP. So under API and services, you need to create a service account. So you create a service account. So this is, so don't ignore the one that is there because it's from a previous demo. So go ahead and we'll go through the steps for creating a service account. So once you create a service account, you're expected to populate values such as your service account name, your ID, and then go ahead, create and continue. So you need to grant this service account access to the project, right? So you will need to give permissions to BigQuery. So depending on the need, so in this case, we are just going to give it access BigQuery admin. But most often you have to be very stringent in your access in terms of if only BigQuery query needs to be done, just viewer, you don't have to give it admin access if no new tables need not be done, right? So in this case, we are going to create a new table. So that's why we are giving it BigQuery admin access. Go ahead, continue. And then all the optional step 3 can be left blank and then you are done. So your service account is created. So click on this newly created service account and go to keys, and you are now ready to download the service account JSON that Cloud DPT wanted. Add key. So use the JSON format and click create. It will automatically download a file. So now you are done with the configuring the settings in BigQuery. So going back to our DPT, so we have signed up for the Cloud DPT account, given the name. We are in the process of choosing connection. So we have set the connection, configured the settings in BigQuery. So now we are going to upload the JSON that we have created into your Cloud DPT so that the connections can be made. So it will auto-populate a lot of it, which is the private key that allows DPT to operate on BigQuery. It's also going to do a test connection, so go ahead and click that button. And then you are done. So after you have done your BigQuery connection, it is automatically configures the environment. So we don't have to do it anymore, right? So we go on to step 4, which is set up a cloud managed repository. So in the next few slides, we are going to see how do you set up a cloud managed repository. Click on managed. Give it a name and create it. So this will take a few seconds and it will start initializing your DPT project. So the next screen you should be seeing is the screen that will be shown in the next slide. So we are going to talk about how do you initialize your DPT project. So once you click all the creating your project, you will directly go to the develop tab, right? So you would see the screen. So go ahead and click on initialize GPT project. So this is a framework. So it's going to create a bunch of folders for you, right? So this will take a bit of time. So then you can do your first commit and sync to begin with. Put in some comment. So once you did initialize, you can actually see that you have a bunch of folders on the file explorer, right? So you are now you're going to create a new branch so that you can start creating your data models. So we are moving on to step 4. So in step 4, we are going to start creating the models, but you are in your main branch, which is read only. So you are going to create a new branch so that you can start creating your data models. So create a new branch, right? You are now in your new branch, and then it will let you to create a new file. Right? So all the files you create will go into the models folder. So go ahead and look at the models folder, right? So we are creating a customers.sql. So as we saw, each model is a .sql file. So we are creating a customer.sql. So now we'll create a data model systematically and store it under the models directory. So we have used here all the example from the reference documentation of DPT. So as I said, so the data comes from 3 raw tables, your customer, orders and payment. So what the first step is doing is creating a customer's temporary table. So we have been used to this kind of format before, right? Temporary table creation. So with customer, you are just selecting the ID, first name and last name. So you're dropping every other column of your customer's table, right? So your Jeffels shop is the data set and customer is your table name. DPT tutorial here essentially refers to the project. So then you're creating another temporary table or orders. Then you're creating, so these two helps you to create the next table. So the next table we create is your customer orders, right? So customer orders, if you look at it, it is selecting customer ID and minimum order date and maximum order date and count of order ID from orders, which was just created one step. So this is the whole idea of your data model, right? So you're building your data model in a systematic way from your raw data, right? So you can build on it. So you can sort of orchestrate this transformation workflow, and DPT will take care of what needs to, in which order do the models need to get created. So we are creating your customer orders. So what table it would create is, it would create your customer ID and what is the first time they ordered, what is the last recent order and how many orders they have done. So now we create a final one, which is going to be your final customers model. So we are using multiple tables, right? We are using your customer orders table and joining with your customers table. So you finally get the data in the form you want, right? So and then as we have seen, DPT runs the query against the data warehouse. So in order to compile the model, so this is populated back into the warehouse, right? So it creates the customers table, which is coming from select star from final. So when you do the next step of DPT run, you will see that it creates your customer. So my first DPT model and second first automatically runs because they are already in the example folder under models. That's it. So that's why you'll see all the three models. But the one that we have recently created is your customers. So this, because your DPT is connected to your BigQuery, so now if you go into your BigQuery, you should be able to see your customers table, the data model that you created, right? So you see the view that you have created. So you can create a view, you can create a table as well directly. So depending on what is the configuration in your DPT. So the data is what we created in the transformation tool, DPT tool, right? So you have customer ID, first name, last name, the final table, right? That is the data. And that comes from, some of it comes from customer table, some of it comes from the orders table. So finally, you can query and see the data for yourself. So for each customer ID, the first name, last name, and first order, the most recent order, and the number of order. So you can see how you can sort of hierarchically create your data model. So this is a basic example, but I hope it gives you an idea. Especially as you create more complex models, the whole idea is this is version controlled. So a lot of people can see, they can create their own branches at some point, so that different businesses can collaborate and work on data models as well, right? Because creating data models is not trivial. So that is where the transformation part of the data warehouse is where DPT plays a very important role. I hope you got a glimpse of the capability of DPT through this demo. So let's summarize what we have learned in this module. We got introduced to the data build tool, which is becoming de facto data transformation standard in the industry. So we talked about how it sort of does the transformation of your ELT process, right? It takes care of the T of the ELT. Then we looked at some of the advantages of DPT, which gives us version control, helps us to do CI/CD, and then rapid development as well, and how it's ease of use. Then we looked at how DPT works in and of itself, how the data models get created as .SQL files, right? And then we looked at the DPT demo. So I have given you in this slide a bunch of references that you can go and try and understand DPT better. So I've created a link for one of the case studies that are there in the DPT website, the JetBlue case study, so that you can understand how DPT actually is put to use in big organizations, and some of the best practices in terms of structuring of your folders, etc., that DPT gives you. And then finally, of course, some YouTube videos on how you can enhance your knowledge on DPT. All right, so thank you.